Welcome back. Bruno Bellissimo, the candidate for Alderman of the 45th Ward, has been kind enough to stay on a little bit longer with us. Before we do get back to him, though, Tim, there were two things on the national scope, which, Bruno, you're more than welcome to jump in and give your opinion on. That I don't know. That's why I don't know if you want to go there. So you're welcome to join this, or you could stay out of this, whichever you prefer.
So what do you want to talk about?
Two things.
Iran, Iraq.
Yes, Iran, Egypt, Yemen, Jordan. The fact that so much of the Middle East, the people in the streets are
all
protesting.
Countries where they can hear left, right, and you on the internet. By the way.
Yes.
Except Egypt.
Well, no, Egypt can hear it again.
Oh, they can hear it
We're
again?
back online. We're big in Egypt. We play great up and down the Nile. Anyway, in Iran, last week I sort of took the administration to task for not supporting the protesters in Iran, who were violently put down a year and a half ago by Ahmadinejad and his administration. And regardless of that, the people in Iran are back out there protesting again. And I've got, although the president has not said anything, I will have to commend.
Mrs. President has.
Pardon me?
Mrs. President.
I mean Hillary?
Yeah.
Yes, as I say, the Secretary of State has come out in very strong support of the protesters at this time, the ones in Iran, which is something that they did not do before. So all of a sudden we've got this whole Middle East where the people in the streets are rising up, and I don't know if they're rising up. It seems like they're actually rising up against their leadership as opposed to we hate the United States of America, which is a pleasant change.
You know, anybody, 847-931-1410, I think the president of Russia said it real well when George Bush was out there. He said the democracy in different parts of the world is different than the United States. Russia has its own form of democracy, and just because we have a way that we operate, it's completely different. You know, and it was funny. I was talking on Tanis on the way here. We were talking about his country and search warrants and seizure and different things. And it really isn't that much different, you know, democracy. But I don't think we should be whipping freedom on the Middle East or whipping our form of democracy on the Middle East. It works very well out there. You know, I think a lot of the things that we get involved with is because we defend the only democracy that we recognize a democracy, which is Israel.
Well, I think that we recognize a democracy that when the people speak, there's change made without bloodshed, without arms being brought up. You know, we have elections, and for instance, you know, although I'm very conservative, big supporter of the conservative principles, apparently in this last election, more people felt we needed to have a liberal leader, and without a gun being raised, without riots, without bloodshed, there was a change in the administration, and Barack Obama and his people who think more like him were put in charge of our country.
I don't know.
And that doesn't change in a lot of those other democracies.
I think people vote their pocketbooks. I think if people are feeling, and the unemployment in Egypt is like 35%.
Mm-hmm. That's why they're
out of work. I mean, 2/3 of the people in Egypt have only known the guy. What's his name? Mubarak is who
did step down, by the way. He's gone.
He did step down last Friday. Yeah. But I mean, I think people vote their pocketbooks, and I think when people are hungry, they do different things. Bruno, do you want to say something? I'm sorry. You have any comment about it, or
no?
This is us back and forth.
No, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's something to keep an eye on. Obviously, I expressed my concerns last week that we don't want to see radical groups like the Muslim Brotherhood step up and form democracies. And I'm doing, for those of you who are listening on the radio who won't see us on WPVN 24.3, by the way. I'm doing the quotation marks so that we don't have a democracy like that keeps electing Ahmadinejad. We want a real self-determination. Isn't that what people want?
Well, if you think about Israel, and Israel's been around for 50 years or so, and that basically was set up for a democracy where people could go and people could be free and they could be protected, and it is a democracy by our term. But it's the only one out there.
Yeah,
I mean, it's the only one there, and I'm not saying anything bad about it. I mean,
but it's very different than our democracy because they have an open election, and then whoever wins it comes in and sets up their government.
Right.
So it is
Similar to England.
different.
I think England does that too. They do the parties. I think Italy does that.
Yeah.
Italy's got like 35 parties or something out there.
Yeah.
So it's different. So
Yeah.
a lot of times we see the world as we are,
Right.
not as the world as it is.
Yeah, but I think I took the United States to task for being in bed with Mubarak for 30 years, Republican, Democrat. I mean, he's a despot, he's a tyrant. The fact that he was benevolent towards our financial best interest didn't make him good for the people of Egypt and took self-determination away. So I think this is a good move. I just hope that it doesn't blow up in our face.
In defense of our president, didn't you think our president pretty much right from as soon as this whole thing started, he started kind of distancing himself from a guy that we've been in bed with, as you refer to, for 32 years?
My problem was that he was inconsistent in backing the people in Iran, and the way he backed the people in Egypt were two different things. He basically did not take our enemy to task while he turned his back on our ally. Now, once again, I'm not going to argue whether or not that man should have been our ally, because I don't believe he really should have been. But those are just my thoughts about it, something to keep an eye on, folks.
By the way, I do have audio from the president talking about the Iran protesters.
Go ahead.
You want to hear that? Here, this is from the AP.
We have sent a strong message to our allies in the region saying, let's look at Egypt's example, as opposed to Iran's example. I find it ironic that you've got the Iranian regime pretending to celebrate what happened in Egypt, when in fact they have acted in direct contrast to what happened in Egypt by gunning down and beating people who were trying to express themselves peacefully in Iran. And I also think that an important lesson, and I mentioned this last week, that we can draw from this is real change in these societies is not going to happen because of terrorism. It's not going to happen because you go around killing innocents. It's going to happen because people come together and apply moral force to a situation. That's what garners international support. That's what garners internal support. That's how you bring about lasting change.
Okay. You like that?
I do. I do like that. Once again, though, I think he's got, in that statement, he's got the ability to have 20/20 vision, because that was not the song he was singing in the original protests. So I think in retrospect, he's responding well. But moving right along, unless you have anything else on there.
I was going to ask you, as long as we're on the
Sure,
subject,
go ahead.
is there anything that Barack Obama has done that you think is good?
That I think is good.
Anything you approve of?
That I think is good that I approve of.
You want to take 5 seconds?
I've got to tell you, I have been rethinking about my position on his benevolence towards the Middle East. I thought that it showed weakness, and here we are with the people rising up. We're maybe no longer where I think as the United States was so strong on the Middle East. Is it possible that the leaders in the Middle East were able to point the finger and go, bad United States, bad United States? Let me answer the question.
Yeah.
And so is his benevolence making it harder for the dictators, despots, and Muslim radical leaders to point the finger at us? And are the people in their countries now going, oh, maybe it's not the U.S., maybe it's our leaders? So perhaps his foreign policy, maybe, could have something to do with the breakdown of what's going on in there. That the leaders of those countries that hate the United States for financial reasons can no longer point their finger at us with this benevolent leader that we've got. So there's a possibility of it. I have been kicking that around. Of course, I was not going to offer that up without it being asked, but you asked, and yes. So I'm willing to look at that.
Okay, so we'll redress it.
I don't think he answered the question.
No, he's a
I did. I did answer the. I did, because if you knew me, Bruno, I would tell you that there's not anything that man has done that is worth spit. But I am saying
you ever listen to the show, Bruno?
I think you answered the question.
Yeah,
my spit is going on eBay.
You know what? A week ago we had Ken Miller on, and I'm emailing with Ken, and I say, Ken, is there anything in particular you'd like to discuss? And he said, oh, look at this. This should allow you to ask some good questions. And I responded to him, obviously you've never listened to our show. You're not going to get any good questions. So no, I really I really disagree with his policies very strongly. He is a far left-wing ideologue. I'm a right-wing loon. There's not a lot of common ground that I'm going to like what he says.
At least he's honest.
He's honest, and your answer was politically correct.
What I'm saying though is that I when you see the change happening, you have to say, hey, was his opinion one that's brought this change about? And I don't know for sure what the answer to that is, but it's happening under his watch. Right. Just like the Berlin Wall fell under Reagan's watch.
When China decided that they had these protesters out there, and the Chinese emperor came out there and just rounded up about 2,000 people, shot them in the back of the head, sent their family the bill for the bullet, and they just put it down. Now, what if Mubarak had just sent the troops out there and just said wipe them out? They wiped out 10,000 people and put it down. Where would the United States be then?
Well, that's what Iran did. That is what Iran did.
That's what they're saying, yeah.
A year and a half ago when they first had their protests. Now, why did Mubarak not do it? Did Mubarak not do it because that would be seen too vicious, and considering he's an ally? I don't know why he didn't.
No.
But part of it is that it seems like the military is not necessarily loyal to Mubarak. It almost seems like in Egypt, the way they've portrayed it, and I don't really know for sure because I'm not that in tune with it, but it seemed like they're saying the military stood in between Mubarak and everybody else. That they sort of had this loftier role.
No, but the point I'm saying is if the president would have taken a position and it went the other way, where would we be? And what right do we have to interfere?
Well, there's a difference between interfering and voicing your opinion.
Okay.
And I think that it is our responsibility to at least say, hey, we're standing behind the people.
So out of 70 million people that are there in in Egypt, 1 million people are out on the street. We stand behind the million, not the other 69 million?
Well, what are the other 69 million? We respect the right of that million to voice their opinion, absolutely. And they were doing it peacefully. Mm-hmm. That's the important part. They were doing it peacefully. They weren't taking up arms. They weren't setting things on fire. They weren't bombing things. They were peacefully speaking. And Bruno's shaking his head for the record.
It's a good point you're making. I mean, it's a very good point.
It said it was a peaceful demonstration. They said enough. So, I think they said 35 or 40% of that country lives on less than $2 a day.
Oh, the unemployment's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's just insane.
But it's relevant. Is that relevant? I don't know that we should be sticking our nose in other people's business.
Fair enough. And
should the United States be more or less of the policeman of the world?
Good question, Dave.
That's the $64 million question. Relating it to my own personal life, I've told you this before. I have these two sisters who I love both of my sisters dearly, but we would always fight, and it was either because they were dragging me into their personal stuff or I was interjecting myself. Yeah. About 2 years ago, I said, I'm just not going to do that. I love them. I'm just going to enjoy them, but I'm not getting involved in their personal lives. And we get along wonderfully now. So, maybe you have a point there that...
I go the other extreme. I don't talk to them.
You talk to some of them.
I don't talk to one of them at all, so I just, avoid it.
But the point is that I think that you make a valid point. Is it our role or responsibility not to? And, I remember asking my brother-in-law one day, I said, okay, and we were discussing the war in Iraq. And for anyone who knows the war in Iraq, I'm not pro-war. I never said we should have went. I never said we shouldn't have went. We went. We're there. But I said, hey, you're sitting here going, we have no business there. We had no business there. Well, let me ask you a question.
I didn't say that.
No, not you. My brother-in-law.
Okay.
My brother-in-law said that. We had no business there. Yeah. So I say to you I said to him at that point, I said, well, let me ask you this. If you know that your next door neighbor is raping and beating his wife and his 10-year-old daughter, do you have an obligation to do something about it? And he says, well, absolutely. I said, well, what's the difference? Just because you can't hear the screams of the people who are having genocide committed against them based upon their religion and their race and their culture, because you can't hear them and it's in another part of the world, you can turn your back on it? I just think it's hypocritical to say, yes, I have a responsibility here, and then say, no, I don't have a responsibility there. I'm not saying that I know the right answer. Like I said, I wouldn't say we should have went. I wouldn't say we shouldn't have went. I'm ambiguous about it. I'm confused about it. But for people who are just it's so wrong, but, they call, they have this obligation to their neighbor, I don't really see a difference.
Bruno, you could jump in if you want to. Don't wait for me.
No, I mean, I firmly believe we need to take care of people in this country first, and we really do. We have a lot of homeless. We have a lot of tons of unemployment, and not that we can't have foreign policies and we need, but we can't be the savior to everybody. We just cannot. And that's
pick our battles.
There, right? We have to pick our battles. Even when I was up in Canada, it was a couple of years ago. There's a lot of hatred up there for U.S. as well, and
but they're such a nice suburb.
They are a nice suburb. But I mean, come on, as close as we are to them, and I think about it. We go to Europe or Middle East or Africa, anywhere. We are not the most well liked.
Did I tell you about my trip to Paris?
No,
I went to Paris, and everyone I met there, I went, "Specke de Deutsch?" And they went, "No." I said, "Yeah, it's because we saved you." I was not popular in Paris either.
So,
well, I would tie this in a little bit. Chicago has a big drain on Cook County, and Chicago has a big drain on Illinois. And people say, "Oh, I'm not interested in who's alderman. I'm not interested in who's mayor." But Chicago goes down, Cook County and Illinois go down.
right.
I mean, Illinois is going down now, and people are sitting there going, "Well, the federal government's going to bail out Illinois." So, no. But the point is why are we worried about Egypt? I'm sorry to tie that in there. But like you had just said, Bruno just said, we have a lot of stuff here to deal with.
Right.
Yeah. Every time I hear about how we're sending $1 billion of aid here or $1 million, it's like, wait a minute. Maybe if we weren't giving aid to every third world country, maybe we could take care of some of these issues we have here.
I think we're giving $5 billion to Israel for defense. I just read. I think today I read it in the paper. And 1.5 million to Egypt, and there's reasons that we're not privy to.
Yeah,
we're not privy to.
Yeah.
They don't tell us. They don't gear with us. I remember Mark Kirk when he was a congressman, and they were asking him. He said, "Oh, I'm not privy to these things." So it's 535 men and women that are on the Congressional Hill aren't privy to it. There's a whole sub-world. Like I've said so many times on this show, I love to be in that meeting with President Obama and President Bush, where President Bush goes, "Here's what's really going on in Iraq. Here's what's really going on in South Korea," and really tells you what's happening. And we're not privy to that. We don't know what's going on.
We'll never know that.
Why are we going? I mean, I think the guy in Israel, Netanyahu, the prime minister, God bless him. He just says, we're not putting up with it. This is it. We're going to protect our people. We're going to protect our government. And just whatever you do over there. We're going to build walls. And this is a free country. We're backing him. But why? I don't know. What do they have in Israel? Diamonds? It's really, as far as a natural resource is concerned. So I don't know. I think there's a whole bunch of things behind the scenes that we just never, ever hear about. So you going to say something, Paul?
Mm-mm.
Well, they also have, democracy, which is the only pure democracy is in Israel, in that part of the Middle East.
And how does that affect, the United States? There's got to be a whole bunch of stuff that we just don't know.
Yeah.
The way I understand Israel is a place where you could go and it's free. People are free to do what they can practice their religion. There's no national religion. There's no national language. You could go there and you could just live as a free person. And that's the only place in that region that you can do that. Is that important for us to protect? I guess it is. It is because I can't think of anything. Hey, I always say that if we needed sugar cane and cigars, there wouldn't be an embargo on Cuba. And we would have no embargo on Cuba, and I don't know. So I guess that way of life is very important out there. Everybody I know that's ever been to Israel just says it's absolutely beautiful and it's safe and it's just wonderful. Why are we spending these billions and billions of dollars? I don't know. It's not oil, because they don't have oil in Israel.
No, I really think it just comes down to that there's a belief by the people who run this country, and this is whether you're a Democrat or Republican, is that without Israel there, that entire region is unstable. And having some bastion of democracy, some bastion of freedom, makes that whole region stable. As much as they sit there and say it's unstable because of it, you know what? It brings a certain stability. Because if not, perhaps as long as they're focused on Israel, they can't focus on uniting amongst themselves.
Well, okay, yeah.
As long as we hear about the elections going on in Israel, every few years we're like, we should support Israel. They're the closest to the United States in democracy that we have in the Middle East right now.
They're the only one. They're the only one that's
Right.
in there. So the only one that has our way of life. But we got wrapped up. Didn't you want to talk about the budget?
Yeah, but I don't think we have time to get to the budget. We went a lot longer on that than I thought we were going to. We're down to about 5 minutes, and I thought maybe we could wrap up with Bruno discussing whatever else he might want to discuss.
Talk about the Grammys.
The Grammys song.
Will you be arriving on election night in an egg? That's all I want to know.
They're going to roll out the
Bruno Gaga.
Yeah,
no,
right.
I thought we maybe
Like you see my outfit.
I guess we could.
give
Why
Bruno
not?
a chance to wrap up whatever he thinks is most important here.
Why should the people vote for you? Why are you different than the other 7 candidates? And why is it going to be? I guess I could ask you what would be different with you than the current, without going after Alderman LeVar.
Yeah.
I mean, look, he's done a lot of good things.
How long has he been there?
24. It's 6 terms.
Time to go.
I
That
think
was Paul.
Yeah, I think at some point I think Pat LeVar has done a good job in what he needed to do for our ward, and he's subject to where it's a sign of the times, and I think a lot of the aldermen are having issues. It's not just him. For myself, why should
How
you
many
vote?
candidates are running for alderman in the city of Chicago? Do you know? I think there's like 200 or something.
There's at least 200. I don't know the exact count, but
There's 3 wards not being challenged.
Right, 40th. And
Pat O'Connor, 42nd is Brandon Riley, and 14th, which is Ed Burke. Only 3 out of 50. I'm sorry.
So how many are in play compared to usual? Because I guess I always thought that once you were elected alderman, you were sort of there until you wanted to leave.
It used to be that way.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like
that
that
way
anymore.
No.
No? Okay. Well, I mean, look, you said LeVar's been there for, what, 20-plus years?
Yeah, and he's been there for 6 terms, and
I don't think he's ever had a serious challenge, has he?
the 2007 election he did. He had
Terry
Boyke had
Boyko.
challenged him. I think it was Terry was his chief of staff in the office, and that was a tough race for
It was close.
for
Okay.
LeVar.
This means 3 minutes. That's what Dave's doing.
I
So
thought he
I'm going to
was-
shut
Yeah,
up.
he wasn't
Sorry,
saying
Alex.
read between the lines. He was
Yeah.
giving us a 3-minute sign.
Usually he pokes me in the eye. He can reach me.
Yeah, but as far as why should you vote for Bruno Bellissimo? Because
Yeah.
you've got 7 candidates, and I think we all want to get to the same place. We just have a different way of getting there. But as far as from my experience, I'm out there, and I'm showing my resume, and I'm saying, hey, I have probably more experience cumulatively in government and in municipal finance than any other candidate out there. As far as my values and beliefs, I'm going to be proactive and responsive to the needs of all the residents and stakeholders of the ward. I am going to maintain a high level of services in our ward, and I'll be accessible. I'll be advisable. I will surround myself with the appropriate advisors in the specialty areas that we need, and I'm going to set goals and prioritize the goals. And we'll revisit the goals for the ward periodically, and I'm not going to make excuses about the job performance. And we will make sure we have a rapid response time to the residents of our ward. We owe it to those residents. I believe I can do the job better than any other candidate. And I hope when you go out there on Tuesday, February 22nd, you punch 57.
They already give you numbers and stuff. That's pretty cool.
Punch 57 and second to the bottom. And Bruno Bellissimo. And
There's 7 candidates, right?
7 candidates. And I want to thank you both for having me on the show today.
Great.
It's a great opportunity to meet you and to voice some of my concerns and opinions, and I really, really greatly appreciate it.
Good.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Come back after you win.
Yeah,
Come back
I
on
will.
the show after you
Certainly.
win, and
There might be a
that
runoff.
would be good. You think so, huh?
I think with 7 candidates, the chance of having a runoff is very, very great.
And that would just be the top 2 candidates then,
Top
correct?
2 candidites.
So how does that work?
You have to get over 50% of the voter turnout to win.
50 and a fraction.
50.1.
Okay.
And once if you don't, then the top 2 go in a runoff in April.
Could be like a million. Is that your music?
There's the music.
that's-
No, we've been
It's
banned
on.
in Germany on YouTube
I-
for using that music.
I know.
They got
I think they want us to use some Scorpions music to open up.
supposed to get it
Some
from
Michael
Scott.
Schenker.
Hey, everybody, thanks for listening. Thank you, Bruno, for
Thank you.
joining us.